All right, everybody, how are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Today's episode is on January 12th, 2024. Today's an all soccer video. There's a lot to talk about on Monday if you're waiting to see my thoughts on some of the NFL coaching changes, the thoughts on Nick Saban and the new changes of the Alabama coaches. That'll be on Monday with everything else because today it's technically an international break, but it's not at the same time. It's very confusing. But we've AFCON and the Asian Cup. I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. I talked about it in the Premier League video from last Friday. We have AFCON, Asian Cup, all that fun stuff to break down. We also have the Australian Open, which we're going to briefly talk about later. Talk to you about who to watch, just like last year, who to watch out for, who do I think can really go out and make a move. Let me just get the bracket up here. But we're going to actually start with the transfer rumor today. And I'm briefly talk about this one. It's with Real Madrid and Alphonso Davies. So Alphonso Davies is a left back from Canada, Canadian left back, probably Canada's best player, arguably one of their best players. Probably the other player in consideration would be Jonathan David, who I believe is at Lille, I believe now. But Real Madrid, according to sources, are keeping a close eye on Alphonso Davies' contract situation at Bayern. Uh, it's first of all, the thought of a young left back at Real Madrid is scary. I mean, you feel like Camavinga can play left back because he can freaking play everywhere. Same with Tukameni, even though Ancelotti at one point called him Tuka. It's combining Camavinga and Tukameni. It's like I can't say it. Tukameninga, I think it's something like that. But in all seriousness, uh, sources I'm seeing here in this article, the only way this happens is if Davies doesn't renew a contract with Bayern. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he should go to Real Madrid. He's gonna get more money at Real Madrid. But Bayern's gonna give him automatic chances at winning titles and going for. But if you really think about it, the talent that both teams have, I don't think there's a wrong answer for what he does here. Usually, sometimes with these types of transfers with big names, with big clubs, there's usually a wrong answer. Like, listen, according to this, it says Madrid have a good relationship with Bayern. Don't want to be seen as to interfere with the Bavarian club of the situation with Bayern. But their idea would be to replicate the formula that saw Tony Cruz, the midfielder, arrive at the Bernabeu in 2014. Cruz at that time had a 1 year left on his deal, and the German club allowed him to go to Real Madrid for $25 million rather than see him depart for free a year later. The idea here is it's very simple. Davies' contract is expiring soon. They probably want to get value for him. I think he's going to be a very expensive buy for Real Madrid despite him having 1 year left on his deal. And I think in all reality that signing Alphonso Davies would be a fantastic move for Real Madrid, and it'll really boost their defense, which, I mean, it's Real Madrid. They're going to be good, but adding a guy like a 23-year-old left back in Alphonso Davies, with his talent on the offensive side, I think it's a good get. The question here would be, can Bayern convince Davies to stay? I don't know if they can do that. But that is the recent news with Alphonso Davies. It is now time for the absolute insanity that I think no one asked for. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to give you my group by group predictions, kind of like what I did for the Gold Cup and everything else back then, back over the summer. So I have every group predicted with win. Actually, we're going to do exactly how I did it with the Champions League group stage when I just had all of the groups in front of me. I have the scores and all that fun stuff. And we're going to begin in alphabetical order, starting with the Asian Cup, which actually happened today. I actually got a score right, too. So let's go group by group. By the way, all these were screenshotted. I don't think you can't see that, damn it. Sorry if you got blinded by the light there. But let's go group by group. Group A, Qatar, China, Tajikistan, and Lebanon. I'm starting this off with saying Qatar, they play Lebanon, and I actually had the score right. I made these predictions on Tuesday. I should have made this video early in the week at this rate. But Qatar played Lebanon, and Qatar won 3-0, just as I predicted. Hold on one second. My headphones got tangled in the wire. Back to the content. But then we have our second match day. I have China winning 1-0 over Tajikistan. China is not very good. I'm going to say this now. China is a team that is very underwhelming. They can't go out there and win a big match. And you'll see what happens in the next match day. Because I have Lebanon rebounding well, drawing China to get Lebanon to 1 point. And then have Qatar go behind to Tajikistan and then beat Tajikistan 2-1. Then I have Qatar just be like a Qatar team, and they have to draw somebody. I have them drawing their last match day to China, so China will end the group on 5 points, a respectable 5 points. But then I have Lebanon beating Tajikistan and finishing in third, which in these tournaments there's 6 groups of 4 teams, and the 4 best third place teams advance to the knockouts. Lebanon on goal difference advances to the knockouts on 4 points. They also had 1 point, but their goal difference is not very good. But Lebanon got the job done. Tajikistan scored 1 goal. So we have Qatar, China, Lebanon, and then Tajikistan. Group B, Australia, Uzbekistan, Syria, and India. I'm going to just start this off right now. India is young. They're very inexperienced. They're doing nothing in this tournament. That being said, Syria and Uzbekistan, 2 very interesting teams. I know Uzbekistan's best player is injured. I believe he's a forward. So the goal scoring won't really be there for Uzbekistan, but let's see how I think each game's going to go. Starting us off, we have Australia. I have them beating India 4-1. I think India's going to score a goal against Australia. I don't know why. Australia's going to run them off the field. Then we have Uzbekistan drawing Syria, and I think this is the most interesting opening weekend matchup with match day 1 game with Uzbekistan and Syria. I think this can go either way. Uzbekistan literally have got barely missed out on the last round of World Cup qualifying, and Syria didn't look very good despite making it to World Cup, the final round of the previous World Cup qualifying. So let's see how it goes for both of these teams. Continuing, then we have Australia. I have them beating Syria 2-1. I think it's a very close game. Syria is a very good team, a solid bunch. Good defensively. I forgot to mention that earlier. They're a very solid defensive team. But I have them losing 2-1 to the Aussies. Then I have Uzbekistan beat India 3-0. Uzbekistan's got to beat someone, and I feel like they're going to go very attacking against this young inexperienced India side. Then I have Australia come out on the last day and beat Uzbekistan 2-0. Then I have Syria beat India 3-0, which by 1 goal sets up this group. We have Australia, then Syria finish at second, followed by Uzbekistan in third. They do make it to the knockouts, and then India, -9 goal difference. I don't think they want to talk about it. Group C, which is Iran, the UAE, Palestine, and Hong Kong. I'll tell you right now, Hong Kong... Hold on a second here, chat. I don't know if it crashed. I don't know what just happened. Hopefully the whole thing did not just get ruined. We're going to continue. A lot of technical issues here on the last day of me being here. This as well. Hopefully that's all fixed. Hopefully the audio doesn't sound like complete garbage, and I have a feeling it does. Group C, we have, of course, Iran, UAE, Palestine, Hong Kong. Hong Kong are not very good. Palestine are meh. UAE is actually very underrated, and Iran's Iran. Starting us off, I have the UAE beating Hong Kong and Iran beating Palestine. I think that is not much to be discussed there. Then I have the UAE barely go out and beat Palestine 1-0. UAE are a team that could go out and grab goals, but Palestine I think are going to cause some problems. I forgot what their striker's name is, like Ali Makbout. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I probably just butchered that. Remember, my name pronunciations may not be the best, but they're kind of close. I don't know. Then I have Iran beat Hong Kong 6-0. It's Iran. They're good. They score goals, and they're going to win the group because they won this match. Because Iran's going to draw the UAE on the last day. I just feel like Iran, they're made it to the knockouts. They're going to maybe play some reserves, get ready for the round of 16. I think UAE is going to try and send a message. They go out and grab a point. Palestine are going to go out and beat Hong Kong. I only have them winning 2-1. I think Hong Kong's going to put up a good fight against Palestine. Palestine are going to finish in third. We'll see if they can get into the next round because it's going to be very close. Group D. Japan, Vietnam, Iraq, and Indonesia. I'm just going to say this off the bat. I have no confidence in this Vietnamese team. They're young, they're solid, they do not. I think they're the third best team in this group. So you'll see why. We open up with Japan. I have them winning 3-0 to Vietnam. Japan's the best team on paper in this tournament. And I think no one's going to really. There's not really a discrepancy towards that. They have. You saw what they did at the World Cup back in a year. It's a freaking 2 years. Not 2 years. A year plus now since the World Cup. I think Japan's going to open up strong. I think Indonesia's going to put up a good fight against Iraq, but I have Iraq winning only 1-0. I'm not really don't know the most about the Iraqis, but I know the Iraqis can put up a good fight. If you remember from World Cup qualifying, they were in that group with Syria. They were in that fight with Lebanon and the UAE, and I know they can go out there and get a result. And I think they're going to go out there on the first day and beat Indonesia, but I don't think they beat the Japanese. I have Japan winning 2-0 in the second day. Then I have Vietnam choke it and draw Indonesia. Do I need to say anything more? Japan's then going to beat Indonesia 2-0, and then Vietnam is just going to try and go out there, and I think Vietnam are going to go down and then try and score a late goal, but it's not going to be enough. I have them drawing Iraq on the last day. Setting this result of Japan and Iraq going through, Vietnam are just 1 or 2 points behind Indonesia. Actually, the same goal difference as Vietnam, according to my predictions. They're going to go out winless as well. Unfortunate. Indonesia, I think, is doing well growing the game, but I don't think they're ready to go yet. Group E, South Korea, Bahrain, Jordan, and Malaysia. I'm very intrigued with the midfield of this group. Let's see how I predicted these games. Starting us off, we have South Korea, led by Son Heung-min, or Heung-min Son, whatever way you want to put it. I have them go out beating Bahrain 2-0. South Korea is going to walk the group. You'll see why in a minute. Jordan and Malaysia. I'm very intrigued by this Malaysian team. The Southeast Asian teams are usually known to be really bad, and some of them are, but I don't really feel that way about, like, your Thailand. You'll see why I think about Thailand in a minute. What I think about Thailand. The Vietnamese, the Malaysian national team, and some of these other sides, they're not as bad as you think they are. Unfortunately for Malaysia, they're going to have a rough time. I have them losing to Jordan 2-1. Jordan is a team that's very competent, very capable. They got, unfortunately, eliminated in the second round of World Cup qualifying last time. Then I have South Korea beat Jordan 4-1. South Korea. It's South Korea. I don't know what else you want me to say. Bahrain's going to rebound well. I think Bahrain's a very competent team. They barely missed out on the final round of World Cup qualifying as well. They should have been there. They were better. They had a better squad than some of those other teams that went out late. I think they had a better squad than possibly than the Vietnamese, but the Vietnamese team from that tournament was very young. I have Bahrain winning 2-0 over Malaysia. Then I have South Korea beat Malaysia, and I have Jordan draw Bahrain. So finishing out my group, I have South Korea, Bahrain, Jordan, Malaysia. South Korea, Bahrain, and Jordan all go through to the knockouts. Finally, we have Group F, which is Thailand, Kyrgyzstan, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. This Kyrgyzstan team is very interesting. It's weird that I know something about the Kyrgyzstan national team. Can the White Wolves go out there and make some noise? And they're going to do it on the first day. I have them beating Thailand 2-1. Kyrgyzstan is not bad. They're going to be like a mid. If you had to rank out of all those teams that they're another team that barely missed out on the final round of World Cup qualifying. Kyrgyzstan, I think, are a very solid bunch. Then I have Saudi Arabia draw my sleeper of this tournament, Oman. I'm very high on this Oman team. You'll hear why in a minute. I have Oman drawing the Saudi Arabian national team. Then I have Saudi Arabia beat Kyrgyzstan 3-1. Oman's going to beat Thailand 2-0. Then I have Saudi Arabia beat Thailand once again 2-0. And then I have Oman beat Kyrgyzstan, setting up our group with Saudi Arabia, then Oman, then Kyrgyzstan, and then Thailand. So who are the 4 teams? So let's just go over the teams I have going through automatically, and we'll tell you who the final 4 teams are for my predictions. We have Qatar and China, Australia, Syria, Japan, Iraq, South Korea and Bahrain, Iran, UAE, and Saudi Arabia and Oman. The 4 teams that I would predict to finish out of the third place teams, I can go back to this, would be, we have Lebanon, we have Uzbekistan, we also have Jordan, and on goals for, we would have Kyrgyzstan. Palestine missed out by 1 goal. 1 goal makes all the difference in these things, you know. That the match I think is gonna hurt Palestine the most is the last thing against Hong Kong. I don't know. I just think it was a 2-1. Hong Kong, a team with a -10 goal difference. Them scoring is all the difference for Palestine. So who are my favorites to make it all the way? Well, if I did the bracket, and I'll tell you 2 favorites and a sleeper to watch out for. My favorites, of course, you got to go with the Japanese team. A team that made it far in the World Cup. A very experienced group of players. Good players in the attack, in the midfield, and the defense. A very all-around solid team. Good passing, good distribution from all 3 lines. You also have good pieces in the attack. I really think they're going to cause some problems. You also have, who else do I think can really make some noise? You can go with Iran, South Korea. And I'm going to go with the South Koreans. I think South Korea is going to play in the final with the Japanese. I think that's how that would go out. Let me just make sure of that, because I always like to make sure of these things, because I did a practice bracket earlier. And let me make sure. Because South Korea, who are in Group E, and then we had Japan, who are in Group D. Winner of Group D. This is why I hate this thing. Yeah, they would be on opposite sides of the brackets. I think Japan, South Korea is my final. Iran, I think, can really make some noise. Australia, of course, as well. They're always going to be in the mix with these type of things. If I had to give you a third place team to watch out for, I would probably go with Lebanon. But they've been in really bad form leading up to the tournament, so I think they might struggle a little bit in those bigger matches. A second place team to watch out for me would be probably the UAE or Syria, from a team that I'm not going to mention because they're my sleeper. But let's talk about my sleeper team. I'm going with the Oman national team, and I have them making the semifinals. Why do I like this Oman team so much? Oman has proven during World Cup qualifying that they can go out and win some very big and play well in some very big matches. You don't think so? Let's talk about it. Oman went to Japan, beat Japan. They got results at Australia. They've been competitive in a lot of good matches. And if you look at this Oman team, they're ranked 73rd in the world. That may be a little bit of a problem. But, let's look at their matches from last calendar year. They go out and you beat the Saudi Arabians. You beat Bahrain. You struggle a little bit in the Gulf Cup against Iraq. That's unfortunate. They did lose to Uzbekistan, but they grabbed some good wins against Palestine, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, who I'm shocked aren't here. They did lose to the United States, which is unfortunate. But they played a friendly and looked pretty okay against the United Arab Emirates at the start of this year. They've also beaten China. This team is not going to be here to mess around. Oman is one of those teams that are just so frustrating that they're just going to find a way to make some noise. This Asian Cup, I think, is going to be a real eye-opener for a lot of people in the world game to recognize Oman as an underrated power, a rising team in the Asian game, because of course you have your Australia team. You always have Japan, South Korea, Iran, one of those other Middle Eastern teams, your Iraqs, your Syrias. But you don't expect a country like Oman to really push up and make some noise. I think this is the tournament where they're really going to make themselves a really good team, and they're going to make some noise. You get a draw. They play Saudi Arabia in the first game, which, one, I think is very unfortunate. But can they pull an Argentina, possibly lose to the Saudis or get a result, and then just go out and win the tournament? That's a possibility as well. They also got a great draw playing Thailand, Kyrgyzstan. So I think this can go very back and forth for the Oman national team. So if my favorites were Japan, as well as the South Koreans. And my underrated bunch is going to be Oman for the Asian Cup. Now to the most underrated tournament that you've never heard of in your life, AFCON, which is the Africa Cup of Nations. We've had a lot of controversy, a lot of news before the tournament. We'll talk about one of the teams that had an incident that wasn't even their fault from earlier in this week when we get to their group. But we're going to the Ivory Coast next, and starting us off, we have Group A, which is the Ivory Coast, along with Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, and Guinea-Bissau. Ivory Coast are a very good squad. Nigeria, I know, are missing Victor Boniface, but they do have, I believe they called it Victor Osimhen, but I don't think that's going to be enough. It's really just Osimhen. I mean, they lost to Lesotho. I don't know how confident I should be. And Equatorial Guinea's, out of the couple of times they've made this tournament, they've never been eliminated in the group stage. And Ivory Coast are a superpower. And then Guinea-Bissau, next question. Let's begin. So, opening the tournament, which is their tournament begins tomorrow. The other tournament actually began this morning. Ivory Coast, I have beating Guinea-Bissau 1-0. I think that game's going to be a snooze fest. Just like the start of the last tournament, when Cameroon, I don't even remember who they beat, but they won like 1-0 and they won on a penalty. It's going to be a snooze fest to start the tournament, but it's really going to pick up as the tournament goes on. Then I have Equatorial Guinea just confusing everybody and just draw Nigeria. I think Nigeria is going to be a decent team, but they are just so frustrating and they're very inconsistent. And I think it's going to continue. That's going to be a trend for them in this tournament. Then I have Equatorial Guinea continue narratives from last time and go out and beat Guinea-Bissau 3-1. I think Equatorial Guinea is one of the possible sleepers, that you can have in a tournament like this. They're a very good bunch in the last version of this tournament. And granted, I think they can make some noise in African World Cup qualifying heading into the 2026 World Cup. So they're a very solid bunch. And I have them making some noise to go out there and beat Guinea-Bissau. Then I have Ivory Coast. The home field advantage in Africa is so crucial. And this is where it's going to continue. I have them beating Nigeria 2-0. Nigeria, of course, is one of those main powers of the African game. But I just have Ivory Coast. It's home field in the Ivory Coast. You don't want to play in the Ivory Coast against the Ivory Coast. Makes sense. Then I have Ivory Coast continuing that narrative by beating Equatorial Guinea, and then I have Nigeria beating Guinea-Bissau. But because of goal difference, our group is going to finish as Ivory Coast, Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, and then Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau score 1 goal and lose all 3 games. Unfortunate. Group B, we have Egypt, Cape Verde, Ghana, and Mozambique. Now, I'm going to be honest, Joe. I'm really high on this Cape Verde team. I think they're really good. They can handle some of the top squads, and it's going to continue this narrative here in this tournament. I have Egypt open up by beating Mozambique 2-0. Then I have Ghana just frustrate everyone and draw Cape Verde 1-1. I think Ghana's going to really underperform again, but they're going to find a way to make the knockouts. Because I have Egypt beating Ghana 1-0. Cape Verde beat Mozambique 2-0. Then I have Ghana beat Mozambique 3-1, and Cape Verde draw Egypt. Egypt, led by Mo Salah and no one else you'll probably recognize, win the group on 7 points. Cape Verde and Ghana, Cape Verde finishes ahead of Ghana by 1 point. Ghana does make the knockouts, and Mozambique, very similar to their friends from, I'm calling them friends because they're lonely at the bottom, finished just like Guinea-Bissau, 1 goal scored and 0 points. Group C, my favorite group, and we have to talk about this group because of course, in this group is the Gambia. Now, for those, just a reminder, the Gambia are on the banks of a river, around Senegal, I believe. They had an incident, I think it was on Tuesday, with a plane. They had to ground their flight because the air, something with the air conditioning, and then it got so hot, players. It was such a weird situation. Let me go to my foot mom for a second because this thing was nuts, and I'll just provide some context what is going on in this tournament, because it's a very unfortunate thing to happen, of course. But let us go out and find our update. Gambian team forces to make emergency landing on way to AFCON. Loss of cabin pressure, and oxygen to blame, according to the Gambian FA. Whole article on it. I think it's a good read. It's from The Guardian. I think it's, like I said, it's a good read. Really gives you the full update on what's going on with the current situation. But for this group, I'm still high on the Gambia. They're gonna break false narratives, break the annoying adversity of like what's gone on. I have Senegal though beating the Gambia 1-0. Then I have Cameroon beat the underwhelming Ghanaian national team. Guinea is so frustrating, and I do spoiler I don't have them making the knockouts. Then we have Senegal draw Cameroon. I don't know why they're in the same group. Cameroon really frustrating me once again. Guinea draw the Gambia, and then the Gambia just beat Cameroon 2-1. This is one of those results that's going to make zero sense and really hurt another national team. Senegal is going to be Guinea to end our group with Senegal, then Cameroon, then the Gambia, and then Guinea. The Gambia make the knockouts again. Does it make sense? Not really. They're going to destroy the adversity of having their plane almost kill everyone, which would have been really sad, and go out there and make some noise in AFCON. Again. I love this Gambian team. They're very fun to watch. Then we have a Group D with Algeria, Mauritania, Burkina Faso, and Angola. Now, I'll be honest with you here. It's really a two-horse race in this group. Angola's like okay. Mauritania will always disappoint me for some reason. I'm always watching out for Algeria and Burkina Faso. Algeria, I have beating Angola 2-0, and then Burkina Faso is going to beat Mauritania 1-0. Mauritania, they're not great. Angola's not great either. I'm surprised Angola's even here. Algeria is going to beat Burkina Faso 2-0. Then Mauritania and Angola are going to draw each other because it just makes sense. Having issues communicating. So there might be some technical issues during this episode. I don't know what is going on today. Angola is going to draw Burkina Faso, and then Mauritania is going to draw Algeria, ending our group with Algeria, then Burkina Faso, Mauritania, and Angola. This team's only going to bring out 2 teams into the next round, which is be a very interesting next round for AFCON. And then Group E, it's Mali, South Africa, Tunisia, Namibia. What is wrong with the Wi-Fi? Hold on. It should be fine. So yeah, apologies if this is... I don't know what's going on today. We're not re-recording this, so because I don't have the time to re-record it. But yeah, apologies during this episode if it's really laggy or something's wrong. I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi, with the connection, or anything that's really going on today. So apologies for that. But back to the content. Group E, Mali, I have them probably walking the group. We have Tunisia open up by beating Namibia 2-0, and then I have Mali beat South Africa, who people think could possibly be a sleeper, 1-0. Then I have Tunisia and Mali draw each other. Yeah, this is getting annoying, no chat. Comment below how annoying the Wi-Fi is. Mali's going to draw Tunisia 0-0. It's one of the few 0-0s we're going to have in the whole group. Then South Africa is going to run Namibia off the field. South Africa is going to follow that up by drawing Tunisia. And then Mali's going to beat Namibia have them winning 2-0. Namibia is going to play horrific defense. I think that's a nice way to put it. Mali wins the group, followed by Tunisia, South Africa, and Namibia. Group F, we have Morocco, the DR Congo, Tanzania, and Zambia. Tanzania, another one of those very frustrating teams that you don't know what's going to happen. Tanzania barely made it here. So it only makes sense for Tanzania to go out and get a result. Not in the first game, though. Morocco's going to win 1-0 over Tanzania. DR Congo's going to go out there and beat Zambia. Then Morocco beating the DR Congo. I think that'll be a very fun match to watch out for. Tanzania, they're just going to play like how they did a couple of from the last World Cup qualifying. Just go out there and grab a random result out of nowhere. They're going to beat Zambia 1-0 and then fall apart and lose to the DR Congo again 3-0. Then Morocco's going to beat Zambia to end our group with Morocco on 9 points, the DR Congo, Tanzania, and Zambia. So, the top 2 teams out of our AFCON groups are Ivory Coast, Equatorial Guinea, Egypt, Cape Verde, Senegal and Cameroon, Mali, Tunisia, Algeria, Burkina Faso, and Morocco and the DR Congo. Our third place teams are from Group A, Nigeria. From Group B, Ghana. We have from Group C, Gambia. And we're going to have a team from Group E, South Africa. Tanzania misses out by 1 point, and Mauritania misses out by 2. What are some teams to watch out for in the knockouts? I'm always going to go with Mali. They're one of the most underrated teams in Africa. If they continue to to be stale in these bigger tournaments, even with the server having issues communicating with the server, yeah, blame the server. Mali, I think they're going to be underrated until they're not. I really think this team is going to come out there, get the job done. I have them making at least past the quarterfinals. I think they're going to go out there and make some real noise. If there's another top team that's underrated to watch out for, it's going to be Equatorial Guinea for me. They're always good in the AFCON. They can't make it past the World Cup into the main stages of World Cup qualifying. And if there's one more team, I mean, the DR Congo maybe. I mean, they haven't really done anything since their name Zaire, I guess. I don't know. I don't think they were in the last edition either, but we'll see. But who are some second place teams to watch out for? I'm going to go with Cameroon and Tunisia, two teams that have been here before. Tunisia was in the last World Cup. They went out and, I believe, beat France, which is ridiculous. But they also frustrate everyone, and they're going to concede only 1 goal and not win the group. The biggest narrative from the last tournament of this was Senegal scoring once in their group. You see, it's always funny, chat, that it says trouble communicating with server when I'm right in the middle of a sentence and I stop and it works and I start talking again and it doesn't work. But back to my thought. Senegal, in the last version of this, scored 1 goal and won their group and then eventually won the tournament. We don't see anything like that here, and I think there's going to be a lot more goals, though the African teams are not usually prone to scoring a lot, even though I said they're going to score a lot. But in all seriousness, who are my favorites? You got to go with the home side in Ivory Coast. The home field advantage I talked about in Africa is so crucial. They're going to ride a lot of momentum after winning this group. I think they're going to have an interesting time making it in the knockouts. I'm also watching out for the Egyptian national team. I think Egypt probably one of my top teams to watch out for as well. Every group winner is good. The only one I really am hesitant about is Algeria. I think they're going to not make it past the quarterfinals. But my favorites for this tournament, I'm going to go with Egypt. I'm going to go, just like the last final, with Senegal. Senegal led by Sadio Mane. They made it to the World Cup knockouts. They're a very experienced bunch now. Koulibaly, all these other guys. Actually, no, this is not the team with Onana. Onana's going to choke it. That was something I did get in my DMs yesterday. Yeah, I mean, you can argue that, to be fair, because Senegal is going to... I mean, I should have had Cameroon and concede more, because it's freaking Onana. Do you agree with that, chat? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Yeah, the stoppages keep happening because of the Wi-Fi, but I do have the Gambia. This is like an Onana reuniting moment with Cameroon, but listen, in all seriousness, Morocco, I think, can really make some noise, but my favorites are going to be, we have Senegal, and their experience, and then Egypt, very similar to the last final, I think are going to be my big-time teams. If you want some sleepers, I'm going to go with, hopefully, a second-place team. I'm going to go with Tunisia or Equatorial Guinea. I think both of them can really make some noise. It's really going to depend on the draw. I haven't really looked at their draw. But I think Tunisia, with their ability in a late part of a tournament to go out and win some key games, I think they're going to be the team I'm going to pick to be the sleeper in the Africa Cup of Nations. So 2 tournaments down. We have one more to go. We're going to go to the Australian Open. Let's talk about it. So the draw is out. The draw is massive. For those who don't remember, we talk about tennis on this channel. Why? No idea. But let's talk about some of this tournament. So usually during these, we do 2 favorites and 2 sleepers. I looked over the bracket yesterday. Let's hit the poll up again. What are some favorites to watch out for? I'm not going to name the 1s and 2 seeds. I usually don't like to do that because it's lame. So let's look through this draw real quick and look at some favorites. We'll start us off simple. And I'm going to go with a guy who I picked a lot last year. And to be fair, he performed pretty good. Last year, he made it to the fourth round of this tournament of the Australian Open. And he is currently the 9th seed. And he will be playing in the bottom section of the draw. So you'll eventually probably have to deal with Alcaraz. But the hardest player he'll have to face before the fourth round would be the 21st seed. And I have a feeling he'd walk through this player. And I'm talking about Hubert Hurkacz from Poland. I think one of the best, he really knows how to dominate the baseline. I like baseline players. Hits the ball very hard. Good server of the ball. I think he's going to make a lot of noise. The right-hander from Poland is going to make a ton of noise. He's currently ranked 9th in the world, and I think that's going to really go up with a good performance in this tournament. He's facing a qualifier from Australia. I think is that Austria or Australia? No, it's Australia. He's facing, see if I don't butcher this, Omar Jessica. And then he does face Shapovalov in the second round. I think that's a possible upset. But Hurkacz's talent, I think, is really going to carry him today, this week. I think he's going to make it pretty far in this tournament. The hardest player he would face would be, Hurkacz's draw. Third round, he'd have to face the 21st seed Hugo Humbert from France. But I think David Goffin, he had to qualify for this, which is nuts. Because he's actually he used to be underrated, but he now kind of sucks. I mean, doesn't suck, he's just not great. And then the hardest player to have to face is Holger Rune, and Holger Rune from Denmark. Holger Rune does not like to perform in majors, I don't believe. Let me just make sure of this, because Holger Rune, I did pick once, and he got eliminated in like the first round. He also got Nishioka, which is not the greatest first round matchup. Last time he got to the fourth round, Australian Open lost. So the first time I picked him was the French Open, I think. And he lost to Casper Ruud in the quarterfinals. Wimbledon, quarterfinal, US Open, first round. It's a hard court tournament again. I'm going to have Casper Hurkacz go out there and beat Holger Rune. So I'm really expecting some big things. A possible semi-final appearance on the cards. He does have to eventually face Medvedev, so I'm gonna go with Hubert Hurkacz from the bottom half. Top half of the draw, totally different story. A lot of good players in the top half of the draw. If I had to give a high seed player a lot of praise, is going to be a guy who usually, I remember him being very good on the hard courts. Let me just make sure of this here. He finished, one of the best players in the world. He did get knocked out early in the ATP World Tour final, which kind of sucks. I'm going to go with a Wimbledon quarterfinalist. A guy who he knows how to get far in these tournaments, and always gets dethroned by a guy like a Medvedev. I'm going with Andrei Rublev. This is the time for Andrei Rublev, the man from, I believe he's Russia. Yes, he's from Russia. The 6'2" Russian, great serve. I love his serve. It's very hard, very solid. You can get spinning with it. It's kind of like Kyrgios' serve a little bit. First of all, shout out to Nick Kyrgios. He's a podcast now because he's injured and not playing the Australian Open again, which kind of sucks. I love Nick Kyrgios. Will he play again? No one knows. But Andrei Rublev, the headband guy, he's going to, I think, have a very solid tournament. He knows how to get through a lot. The problem with Rublev is that he struggles and drops sets in the second and third round when he doesn't really have to. He lets some players stay in matches for a good amount of time. Does get very frustrating as a fan, but I like Andrei Rublev. His draw is very interesting. He might have to play Tsitsipas. Jannik Sinner is another good player to watch out for this. But of course, I am going with uh, my guy Rublev. I just can't find what seed he is. Andre Rublev, the 5 seed, is in the top part of the draw. He would have to play, I think, Chris Eubanks, who's an unseeded player who can make some noise. Uh, his hardest player would probably be Seb Corder early on. D Manure, another player who I like, the left-hander from Australia. I think it's going to get a really good backing. Kachanov, another player I think can watch out for. This top draw is a lot of fun, especially the part where Rublev is. A lot of good seeded and unseeded players are in that part of the draw. So I think Rublev is going to have the toughest time, but I think he is the one of those guys who can get out of adversity and go out and make some noise. Sleepers, which are usually like the 20 seeds and lower. Uh, we'll start from the bottom of the draw because there's a couple of answers that you could pick for this, but there's a lot of good answers. I'm just going to have to scroll through this and see if there's any name that I really think can make some noise this week or next 2 weeks to go out there and maybe go. Last time I did this, I picked Mackenzie McDonald, and he beat a seeded player. I just don't remember who it was. Alexander Bublik from Kazakhstan is a good shout for this, but he does have to play Alcaraz in the 3rd round, so I'm not going to go with him. Because of the draw he has, I want to go with. I'll give you 2 from the bottom draw because I can't pick. I'm going to go with Alexander Bublik from Kazakhstan. Good server, can really move. He plays a qualifier, and then he plays always frustrating Mackenzie McDonald, probably in the 2nd round. And then Jiri Lacheka from Czechia. Yeah, the reason I'm picking him is he's the only. He has a gift 1st round match, and then he has a gift 2nd round match. It's hard. He would have to play Zverev, who is always prone to sucking at that part of a tournament. But I think Zverev is, once again, another good shot for someone who can really make some noise this week. I'm going to go with Lecheka and Bublik out of the bottom. And then out of the top part of the draw, I'm going with Seb Korda. I mean, Sebastian Korda, the always frustrating yet very talented Sebastian Korda. His sister is on the LPGA Tour, Nelly Korda. She's very good as well. Very talented, good serve. Doesn't move very well from what I remember. But he can go out there and make some noise, get a couple of upsets. I'm going to go with my guy, number 29, the 29th seeded Sebastian Korda, as my low-seeded or unseeded upset. On the men's side, on the top half of the draw, the women's draw, because we still have to talk about the women's draw. Let me just hope the servers don't destroy themselves. So hopefully this still works. I'm talking over it. It's just having communication problems with their servers. I don't know what's going on today. There we go. We're back. We're going to the women's draw next. Who do I like in this year's Australian Open women's draw? There are a lot of good choices. And we're going to go back to 2023 because the 2023 draw had a lot of players that I like make it far in this tournament. And if you remember, Sabalenka won it all. But I'm going with someone who went to that final as one of my players to watch out for. I'm going to go with this is unconventional of me here, but I really think she has such a good draw she's going to make it far. I'm going with Rybakina for another Kazakhstan player. What does it mean, Kazakhstan? I have no idea. I'm going with Elna Rybakina. She's proved she can get far on the big stage. I'm going with Rybakina. Haven't been able to watch a lot of her recently, but she's been usually very solid on the big stage. Bottom half of the draw player, let me just find someone that's good that I know of. Ons Jabeur is a very popular pick for me. If you remember from the last couple of videos, I am going to go with... That's a top draw player. Another top draw player to watch out for, by the way, is Caroline Garcia. She's very solid as well. Screw it. I'm going with another low seed player. High seed player. I'm gonna go with Jabor again. I'm kidding. I might have to go with Jabor here because there's no one I really know. Samsonova, I think, is a good shout. Is Samsonova a good shout? Who is here from last time? I don't know a lot of people in this draw. Is Ostapenko here? This is the problem. I don't watch a lot of women's tennis. So I don't know a lot of people in the bottom part of this draw. I am going to go with a player who always... You know what? I'm going to go with her anyway. I'm going with Garcia. She actually is in the bottom part of the draw. Nice. I'm going with Caroline Garcia, a player who's another player who's been able to prove on the big stage. Someone struggles with hard court play. I'm interested to see if she can adjust to that well. Unseeded players or like low seeds to watch out for. From the top part of the draw, I'm going to go with... Choices. Pliskova would be a good shout, but she has to play Rybakina in the first round. Sloane Stevens is always good on hard court, though she does have a tough draw. I'm going to go with Sloane Stevens out on the top. I think Sloane Stevens is... And I think her best surface is the hard court. She made it to a U.S. Open final. She won a U.S. Open final. I think Sloane Stevens would be a very good shout for the top part of the draw to go out there and cause a little bit of chaos. Out of the bottom, there's not a lot of choices here that I know. That I actually, who I know actually are good. Let me scroll through a little bit more here. While I'm doing this, make sure to like the video, even though it says it's lagging. I can't do anything about the Wi-Fi today, guys. I'm sorry. This will be resolved when I go back to school. Hopefully we don't have problems like this again. I'm going to go with a seeded player. I'm going to go with Mertens from Belgium, 25th seeded Mertens. Sakari, I think she's going to beat Sakari. Mertens is good enough to go out there and beat the eternal frustration known as Maria Sakari in major tournaments. So I'm going to go with another solid player, a person who's been here before, a person who's on the same side as Garcia. I'm going to go with with Mertens. So my predictions are we have, where's Rybe? I think it's, yeah, Rybakina and Garcia is my favorites, with my sleepers of Mertens from Belgium. I totally butchered that. Don't talk to me about it. I did butcher it. And Sloane Stevens. You already hear my men's picks. And hopefully the Wi-Fi didn't just destroy this entire recording, because I was able to go through AFCON, the Asian Cup, and the Australian Open. All kick off either this weekend. Actually, one started today. So a lot of stuff to watch out for this weekend. But on that note, that'll be all from today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Next week, we go back to the regular setup, back in the dorm again. It'll be interesting to go back. We'll see how it goes. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. See you guys Monday. Goodbye, everyone. The server is not letting me end the video. I hate it when this happens. Make sure to like and subscribe.